Good evening. I would like to call the November 21st regular board meeting to order. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda. I want to welcome everyone tonight. We've got a full house. Thank you all for coming. We'll start off by standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it's time for roll call. Mr. Chambers, when you're ready, please.
Mr. Nichols? Here. Ms. Pritchard? Here. Mr. West? Here. Mr. Ross? Here. Ms. Parkhurst?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. First on the agenda is approval of the regular board meeting minutes from October 17, 2022.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the October 17th meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. West. Any questions or comments, changes from the board regarding these minutes? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additions, removals, or modifications to this evening's meeting agenda?
No, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. Mr. Chambers?
Mr. Ross? Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, good evening. It's exciting to see so many people at our board meeting this evening. We have a lot to celebrate as we head into Thanksgiving and a lot to be thankful for, especially with the many things that are happening in our school district, and to be able to be in a position to celebrate the things that are happening. So we do have a bit of a lengthy section here in superintendent's communications, a lot of positive things going on. I'd like to start off by inviting our encore show choir into the room. They've got their holiday show that's coming up, and it's exciting to be able to welcome them into the room for our board meeting to give you a little sneak peek of what's to come. And if you have not seen our encore students perform, you're about to be dazzled. Not too long ago, they actually had the opportunity to go down to Columbus and perform in Columbus at the Ohio School Boards Association Conference, which is actually in November, which our board recently attended. So the timing couldn't be better to have them here to perform for our board and our community as well.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Preston Trumpler, and we are the 2022 choir officers.
I'm Camille Christian.
I'm Lydia Ilg. And I'm Allison Custer.
We'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about the upcoming events we have. So first off, on December 1st, we have our our second choir performance. All the choir department throughout Medina has a performance. We would like to invite you guys to come out and listen to us perform.
Okay, and then the next day, December 2nd, we have the Encore Holiday Christmas Extravaganza, which is us Encore, and we've been working on some Christmas numbers, and we have some specialty acts, and we also have involved some 5th through 8th graders who will also be performing that night, so we'd really like to see you there.
And then showing a little bit more of what we do afterwards, we have a competition season, which is in like January, February, and we've been actually working on our comp show already since like June. And we always have a theme, and this year our theme is Time After Time, so it's actually based off of the show Doctor Who. So I have a TARDIS here. This is actually a working model of our set that we have. So as you can see, there are a lot of different parts that go into this. We have the singer-dancers, we have the crew, and we have the pit, and everyone works together just to make this show super awesome and really cool. And then in January, February, we'll go to about 4 different competitions throughout Midwest Ohio. And so we just love to see you guys there to come and support us for all the hard work that we all put into it.
And we also have the Medina Midwest Showcase, also known as MMS, which is the competition that we host here at Medina High School. And we get a lot of people to come out and see us. We have about anywhere from between 15 to 20 schools from different show choirs around to perform, and it's a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you all come out and enjoy some show choir performances.
Have a merry, 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 merry Christmas. Have a happy holiday. Get yourself into a glow underneath the mistletoe. Have a Christmas in a good old-fashioned way. Merry Christmas! Hang a holly wreath and candle in each window. Hang your heart up on a shining Christmas tree. Have a merry, 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 merry Christmas. Just as merry as it can be. All out the holly, put up the tree before my spirit falls again. Fill up the stockings, I may be rushing things, but deck the halls again now. Deck the halls now, for we need a little Christmas right this very minute. Candles in the window, carols at the spinning. Yes, we need a little Christmas right this very minute. Need a little Christmas now, for we need a little music. Da 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 da. Need a little laughter. Ha 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 ha. Need a little singing. Sing 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 sing. Ringing through the rafters, and we need a little snappy, happy ever after. Need a little Christmas now.
Thank you, Mr. Skidmore.
Thank you, and I think we should start off every board meeting with encore performance. Thank you.
I think they are headed off to an evening of rehearsal. Next up, I'd like to invite representatives from American Legion 202 up to the front. We have been very fortunate to have a very collaborative and supportive relationship with the American Legion here in Medina City Schools. I know I have personally, over the years, had an opportunity to get to know these gentlemen and their passion for our community as well as the children within our school district. And an interest that they have had is reaching out to our social studies classes within both of our middle schools in a collaboration to have an awareness of our country's history as well as a recognition of our veterans. And I want to thank them for their work and their collaboration with both of our middle schools in this great project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sable, and board members. I want to thank you. I'm Dave Taylor, representing American Legion Post 202 in Medina. We've had the honor to have been able to look and grade the essays this year again. And we thank you for sponsoring this essay contest, and especially I want to point out Mr. Ron Ross, who started this a number of years ago, and he and his wife are providing all the prizes and everything else. Is very much appreciated. This year we had 269 applications, essays, and I'm here to tell you we had 269 winners because they were all great. The very fact that these students took time to think about the sacrifice and the service of veterans and then put those thoughts in the words, they are all winners. We have some of them that we're going to point out tonight that were graded. It was a tough grading situation for some of them. We really agonized, and it was very, very close. But it was a great thing. And some of the graders are here tonight as well. So let's get started. Students, when I call your name to come up, kiss the mic, okay, so we can hear you. You don't have to rush. Take your time. And when you come up here, you become teachers. Because what you're going to read to the board and everybody else here is a teachable moment about the service and sacrifice of veterans, okay? And I thank you for coming. So we will get started. And I also want to thank Amy Busby, my partner. She's publicity and everything else. That was my background in the corporate world. And there's nobody better than her in this county, that's for sure. So she's going to work with me here too. She leads the way. First, I want to start at the 6th grade level with the honorable mention, and that is Mia Spataro from Claggett. Mia, is she here? Come on up, Mia. Take your time, okay? Nice and loud.
What is Veterans Day, you might ask? Well, Veterans Day is a day to thank and appreciate all veterans who served in the military. A veteran is someone who served in the active military, a man or a woman who has honorably completed a service for any branch of the armed forces, which include the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and Coast Guard. I think this day is important because it's a way to honor the people that risked their lives to serve our country. It also raises awareness to people what the veterans did for us and how important this day really is. It also shows how brave they were, what they sacrificed, and honored it brought to the people of America. Veterans fought for our freedom and risked their lives whether or not we realized they appreciated it. They risked family separation, often isolated tours of duty, long and difficult hours with no extra pay, so I think it's really important that we say thank you and bring awareness to veterans. And know that they have fought for our country and risked many things to help. Our country without Veterans Day wouldn't know how much veterans do and how much we really have to appreciate veterans. We can honor them in a few ways. One, by giving veterans an opportunity to tell their stories, respect veterans' service, their feelings, and other suggestions they might offer, because without the veterans there would be no United States and no freedom. This is why Veterans Day is important and why we should bring awareness to them. We need this reminder each year because without it, what they did for us in this country will go unnoticed and simply cannot happen. My dad is actually a veteran as well. While I was born overseas, it took him 2 whole days to get home. To see me, he was not able to see me until I was 6 months old. This is a big example of what they give to us and others. I could be more proud of my dad for his time in the military. Thank you for all veterans and everything they have done for our country. If you see one, please make sure to tell them thank you and never forget how important they are in our lives.
You can have that, and I'm going to have your hand. There you go.
Thank you, Mia. Next is the 3rd place winner from 6th grade, and this is from Claggett Middle School, Anthony, I hope they pronounce it Alisop. Yeah. Did I say that right? Yeah. Oh man, I'm impressed with myself. Anthony, go right ahead. Take your time, right into the microphone.
June 1st, 1955, Dwight D. Eisenhower changed Armistice Day to Veterans Day. Armistice Day was only for World War I veterans. However, Mr. Dwight Eisenhower made it Veterans Day so we can honor all those who have served. What Veterans Day means to me is the people who have served our country and all nations. I'm from Syria, a country that has been fighting ISIS, known as the Syrian Civil War, from 2011 and ongoing currently. Although the fighting is still happening, I lost my uncle in the war. He was taken by ISIS and never to be seen again. Knowing my family fought and served for my country is something I am very honored for. Also knowing that the great Americans fought for me to be here currently, fought to put the bread on our tables, and even sacrificed to save others is even more of an honor. Maybe your brother, your sister, your uncle, etc. should be an honor to you and is an honor to me. And for the people reading in the Army and have been in the Army, I thank you all so much for making this country what it is today. Whether you are Christian, Muslim, atheist, or non-religious, etc., I know that there's one thing we all have in common. It is that we love America and we honor our veterans. Here's a quote from the Star-Spangled Banner. It means very much to me. O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave, the land of the free which is fought by the brave. Think about those lyrics when you see an American flag on Veterans Day or July 4th or any time. Just remember what the veterans did for you.
Anthony, you rock. For the second place of the sixth grade, also from Claggett, is Raimundo DeFranco.
What does Veterans Day really mean to me? I ask myself. As I'm thinking about this, I come across the auditor's ledger by our auditor, Mike Kovac, laying on the counter. As I'm reading through this article, I learn our history, how and why Congress decided on what day we celebrate Veterans Day. November 11th is when an armistice went into effect to end World War I. I have read many historical fiction books. I'm intrigued by what is taught to me in school, and I've watched movies and TV about our history and wars, but I've never felt serving our country personally. My mom encouraged me to pay attention to these plaques hanging on the wall of my school. I'm not surprised by my focused, fast-paced day that I never looked up to notice them. In anticipation, I couldn't wait to get to school the next day. In the midst of hustle and bustle, I look up. The plaques of 3 young men are hung across from the gymnasium on a large wall in the main lobby. My eyes open to their lives. I envision these young men as 12-year-olds goofing off in these halls, getting taught by the same teachers, and participating in school activities. I could not imagine what it would feel like to be overseas, away from family, fighting in a war, and being so incredibly brave and courageous. I'm staring at these 3 young men. Devin James Grella, PFC, U.S. Army. Michael W. Finke, Jr., Sergeant, U.S. Marine Corps, and Jacob L. Frazier, Staff Sergeant, Illinois Air National Guard. Looking at their picture, not even knowing if they ever thought they would envision themselves being honored by their school and how important they are to me. These young men gave the ultimate sacrifice for their country. Many Americans before and after them fought for our freedom. Freedoms to go to school, to use my voice, to have a vision, and to live by my values. Every time I walk by their photos, I will look up and have my eyes open. I will give thanks, show respect and honor to these young men and all the many veterans for their service. That is what Veterans Day means to me.
Raimundo's essay was one of the tough ones for us. My wife taught at the Claggett Middle School, and all 3 of these students in Medina County that were killed on the war on terrorism went through Claggett School. So I thank him for remembering them. And finally, for the 6th grade, first place, a very great essay, Isabella Stropko. Come on up here. Take your time. Right into the microphone.
Veterans Day essay by Isabella Stropko in Mr. Wine's class, period 3-4. I'm a student at Claggett Middle School, and Veterans Day means we honor those who serve and fought for our country. I, Bella Stropko, appreciate those men and women who sacrificed their lives and to leave the things they love the most to fight for our country. I'm honored to have 2 people I know that fought for our country, my great-grandpa, as I call him Peepaw, and my Aunt Danielle. My Aunt Danielle worked on the Navy on the USS Kitty Hawk ship and would fix tires and brakes on the plane to serve for our country. My Peepaw served in the Navy as an underwater explorer to search for underwater mines and bombs to make sure the ships passed safely. The 5 main branches are Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. I think Veterans Day is important because it gives us a chance to thank the people actively fighting for our country right now. Those that go out to fight for us, sacrificing their family, home, time spent with loved ones, and their own lives. The sacrifice can even mean getting their body wounded, hurt, permanently damaged. It is important to honor these people because of their sacrifices. We have privileges to live in a free country because of them. I'm thankful that we have the privilege of walking safely through our country without being scared that we would be bombed or shot at. I, Bella Stropko, am very thankful for those who serve or are serving right now and those who go to work to make sure I live in a free country. Thank you.
And now we'll start with the 7th grade. We'll start with honorable mention, Maddie Bradway. Come on up, Maddie.
My name is Madison. Veterans Day means a lot, and it's important. So let's go to the past and find out when it all started. In November 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armstrong Day. In the following words, to us in America, to the reflections of Armistice Day, when it be reflected with solemn pride and of those who died in the country serves, and with gratitude for victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us, and because of the opportunity it gives America to show sympathy and peace and justice in the councils of nations. Veterans Day is organized as Armistice Day, the first annual of the end of the World War I. Congress passed resolution in 1926 for an annual, and now November 11th became a national holiday. Veterans Day hits home because I have many family members who have served, my grandfathers, great-grandfathers, my uncle, and 2 aunts, and many cousins. For me, Veterans Day means to be thanking them for their service and having a cookout. Now, it means much more. I've learned that we need to support our vets not only one day of the year, but every day. Not only to be thankful and for what they have fought for us, but that some are fighting every day with mental health and some physical health issues. My aunt, Sergeant First Class Courtney Fitzgerald, passed away in July of 2020 due to suicide. I was very close to her. When I learned how and why she passed, I opened my eyes to many struggling situations, to our active duty and vets dealing with a lot of changes in the past 2.5 years. I have seen things differently now. My family and I don't just have a cookout anymore. We are involved in a fundraiser project, and we have past ideas to help change standards and help to hire military forces at Fort Bragg. Today, if you ask me what Veterans Day means to me, I feel emotion. I feel empathy for our service members and families in a way I've never wished to. So, you don't just say that you are thankful once a day. Be thankful every day. Reach out to those who are currently serving and to our vets every day. Tell them that they are appreciated, thanked, and loved.
So board members, I think you're getting a taste. This is what we have here tonight is the heart and soul of Medina City Schools. Okay. 7th grade, 3rd place, Gianna Papard. Did I say that right? Gianna? Is that right? The second last name?
The last name is Papard.
Okay, that's close up.
On Veterans Day, we appreciate and thank our veterans for their service in protecting our country. Veterans Day, or Armistice Day, to me, is a day of honor to those who have served in the military or are currently serving. Veterans Day gets its name from the armistice that ended World War I on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. We take this day as a reminder to thank those who helped shape the future of our country. When an armistice was signed, many soldiers had fallen fighting for our country, and that is what the red poppy flower symbolizes. When we see the veterans at our school handing out handmade red poppies on this day, we don't think of their resemblance. The red poppy has a much deeper meaning than just a flower. It is a memory of the warriors who have died fighting in our country. Not only is it important to honor those who served in a time of war, but also those who have served in a time of peace. To sum up this essay, Veterans Day is a day of remembrance to those who have sacrificed their lives for our country, a day to thank anyone who has or is currently serving in the military, and that many things like Veterans Day and the red poppy flower can have a much deeper meaning than what you could have thought.
Thank you very much. We move up to 7th grade, second place, Peyton Chura. There we go.
In this essay, I'll be saying what Veterans Day means to me and how it is important to me. Veterans Day is important because we were celebrating people that have served in our country and that have saved many lives and also have taken people out of dangerous situations. Veterans are not forced to do what they do. They choose to do it, which I think is amazing, that we have people in our world like that. Veterans should always get thanked for what they do because they do not have to do what they do. People in the Air Force, military, or anything else are risking their lives to go out there in wars, including flying helicopters, planes, and even fighting on the ground. It can be very sad when you figure out one of your family members got hurt in the military or Air Force. That is why we should always be thanking them and showing lots of respect to veterans. And lots of people ask, why are these people risking their lives like this? And why is this so important? People that are in the military or Air Force usually joining want to change the world for many reasons, like not having bad people come to attack and many more reasons. But all this is important because people that are doing this are usually loving what they are doing or where they have got in life. This is very important because if we did not have these people in our lives, this world would be a lot different. These are my reasons, and why I think veterans are important. There's a lot more reasons, but thank you for serving our country.
And rounding out first place in the 7th grade is Emma Kohler. Emma? There we go.
I'm very grateful that we take a day to remember veterans who have served to protect us and our freedoms. I am very grateful for people who have given their lives in war to protect our country. I have grandparents and uncles who have served, including my great-great-great-grandfather, Charles W. Boughton, who fought for the Union in Civil War. My grandfather still has his sword and parts of his uniform and handwritten letters. It is neat to see this stuff and think about what he had to go through and what he had to do to prepare for war. This reminds me of all veterans who have fought just like him. I'm glad that I live in a free country because of people who have served in different branches of the military. I'm glad to have freedom because I can do sports that keep me healthy and fit. Some of the sports I enjoy are lacrosse, basketball, soccer, volleyball, and track. Another freedom I enjoy is choosing what church I go to. I like going to my church to learn more about Jesus Christ. I also have friends at my church who have the same standards that I have, and I like to go to the fun activities every week. In some other countries, they don't have this option to choose their religion. In conclusion, I think it is important for all Americans to take some time out of their day on every Veterans Day to think about veterans who have served in our country or who serve today. They should also be grateful for the freedoms and protections that they have and the sacrifices that other people have made for them.
Okay, now we're on to 8th grade. First, we start with honorable mention, Lincoln Marks.
What is a veteran? Webster's dictionary defines the term veteran as a former member of the armed forces. But in my opinion, a veteran is much more than that. Veterans Day means many different things to many different people. To me, sacrifice is the thing that stands out the most when I hear the word veteran. Men and women willing to risk their lives to go and fight for their loved ones, their country, their homes. All gave some gave all. People join the military for a number of different reasons. Some join on their own, and others were drafted. I can't even begin to imagine how terrified some soldiers were when they were drafted, seeing how young some of them were. Although everyone came from a different background, they all had the same goal: to protect our country and our freedoms. When a soldier leaves home, they know they are risking everything. They give up important milestones like birthdays, weddings, graduations, holidays, and even funerals. I feel as though without holidays like Veterans Day, many people would forget the heroic sacrifices made every single day. Some soldiers were lucky enough to walk away with minor injuries, while others died in the line of duty. I think the saying, "Not all heroes wear capes," perfectly encaptures the work that veterans do. Without them, we wouldn't have the rights and freedoms we have today. Soldiers have responsibilities, as do we. Our responsibility is to honor them every November 11th.
The third place winner for the 8th grade is Isabella Marzano. She could not make it here tonight, so we'll make sure that she gets her recognition. In 8th grade, second place is Caleb Miller. Caleb, come on up here, buddy.
What does Veterans Day mean to me? Veterans Day to me means that we celebrate and remember the loss of veterans and all veterans. The veterans from many years ago and the veterans now. Without them, we would have no home of the brave and land of the free. We would have no country. We would have no stars and stripes on a flag of our own. Think of World War II and how different our lives could have been without veterans, or any of the wars, battles, and everyday duties of veterans that have sacrificed everything for us. It isn't easy to put your life on the line for a job while other people have normal jobs where they are safe. Veterans Day means remembering and giving thanks to the many veterans that have sacrificed far more than I could ever imagine for our country and our safety. The Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, National Guard, and the beginning of Space Force. These are the 7 branches of our military, our protectors and our saviors. Every veteran was involved in at least one of these branches, fighting for our freedom. The branches aren't just words, they're groups of people that have given us our freedom and our rights. Without them, we wouldn't have many rights or freedoms. So on this day of the year, we not only recognize them, but we should be thinking about doing things for them in return. Veterans have sacrificed everything for us. Veterans Day is special because we celebrate veterans, and give thanks. Thank you for your sacrifice and everything you have done for us. Thank you for your service, veterans.
And then finally, the first place in the 8th grade was Colton W. I don't have his last name.
Right behind you. Colton
Well, is he here?
Right here.
Right in front of me. Okay, buddy. Came up from behind me there. Hey, take your time, buddy.
Veterans Day means honor, sacrifice, and love. My great-grandpa was in the United States Army and fought in the Korean War. My brother was in the United States Marine Corps. I'm very thankful for not just their sacrifice, but all of the veterans who have served in our military. They teach us to be helpful, be brave, and be strong. Their loyalty to this country and to us is unimaginable. They have chosen to give up so much to defend our rights. They fight for us. My brother and I were always very close, even though we are 10 years apart. When he left for the United States Marine Corps, I didn't realize all that he had to give up to do that. He gave up his freedom so we could have ours. He gave up holidays and birthday parties with family and friends. He gave up his choice of where to live and went where they told him to go. He was lucky as he only gave up those things. Other veterans have sacrificed their arms, legs, and even their lives. Because of their sacrifices, we can do whatever we want and be whatever we want. I think every day should be Veterans Day. We need to appreciate those who have given up so much so that we can have what they don't. Veterans deserve to be celebrated and rewarded for their service. The loyalty and service, time and sacrifice they have given to us and this country is unimaginable, and I thank all veterans for that.
Just in closing, I want to also recognize the teachers. Teachers are very, very busy, and then we have these essay contests, and I want to mention the names of the teachers that rolled up their sleeves to get this done. First, we have Miss Carlson from AI Root, and then from Claggett, which has always rolled up their sleeves. We have Mrs. Shuck, Mr. McIlvain, Mr. Wymera, Mr. Deesh, Mr. Wyan, Mr. Baker. And Ms. Parkhurst, I would recommend they all get a raise for doing this, going above and beyond, but I'll leave it at that. Students and parents, what we'll do now is we'd ask you to, we're going to save you from the boring business thing. Would you please come on out here in the hall? We're going to take our annual picture with the winners and the Legionnaires, okay? Thank you very much, board. Much appreciated.
No, no, no.
We're not done yet. I'd like to invite Cindy Grice. I'm surprised we don't see anybody back there in scrubs. Yeah, our medical detectives program over at AI Root has been really an outstanding success, and that very much has to do with the people that we have leading the classroom. So I'm excited to have AI Root here presenting this evening with some of the great things that are happening over there in their building.
Awesome. Good evening, everybody. I'm Cindy Grice. I'm the principal at Root, and I'm here tonight with 7th grade teacher extraordinaire, Nikki Ferrugia, who is our former 6th grade teacher, 7th grade math teacher, and now for the past 2 years has taught Project Lead the Way, which is our medical detectives course, which is the 2nd year of implementation. So we're excited to present to you tonight some celebrations of our students in 2 ways. One, what it means to just take regular content, take our competencies of our portrait, merge them together, and put them in real-world application. And Nikki does that every day in her classroom, so we're excited to celebrate that with you. And second, we're excited to celebrate kids excited about learning. We've talked a lot about, with our staff, what it means to just have your passive, compliant kids and how we move them to engagement, but then ultimately move them to be empowered as designers and creators. So
Nikki, take it away, and she'll share the great work that our students are doing.
All right, let me make sure I get this down. What am I doing, Craig? Yes. Nope. Are you doing that? I did it? Not for long. Okay. So can I do that? Nope. That one works. Okay. So I'm part of the AI Root Inspire team. And my course is Medical Detectives, which is through Project Lead the Way. Project Lead the Way has been out there for about 25 years, and it is in all 50 states now. So it's pretty exciting that it's come to us, and we have this opportunity. We are sponsored by Medina County Career Center, and they have quite a few opportunities out there for biomedical science for our students to explore. So this is just my interpretation of Portrait of a Bee. So I kind of took everything that we talk about, our character interactions and thinking, and kind of just brought it to a middle school level for us to work from. So these are 3 big posters at the front of my room that we use and refer to. So we start off with establishing that respectful relationship. Do a lot of that. There we go. We move into collaboration because the whole entire course is really about working together in collaboration. So the first time that we collaborate, I want to make it something where they can be creative and it can be fun. And we had our own medical shark tank and a hospital escape room, and students start to get that bond and, feel safe working together in that group. So, and then it takes us into our very first unit, which I focus on our communication skills and our Portrait of a Bee because it's vital signs. And we know when we're doing vital signs, you have to communicate to your patient. You have to reassure them what you're going to do. And they had to really work together. And this was new for them. So they had to really work through and help each other through the steps and protocol. So once we practiced, we packed up all our equipment, we put on our lab coats, and we went down to the gym, and the teachers cleared out the weight room, and we held our own little mini clinic for 6th graders. And so it gave us an opportunity to actually apply the skills, and it was authentic communication. They needed to look at a younger 6th grader and make them comfortable and explain what they were doing and what blood pressure was. And that kind of kicked off their unit of study. So their first experience was having like their blood pressure taken or their pulse. And then we move into experimental design. So the kids, I tell you, they love anything when it comes to choice. If I told them to bring a blue pencil tomorrow forever, I will only get a few. But if I say tomorrow we are going to do an experiment to lower heart rate, I mean, I had air mattresses, we had aromatherapy, they got online, they did yoga. They were so into it when it's their choice. And it was great because they had opportunity to try something, and then we did it again the next day where they refined it. Oops. Okay. So we continued with experimental design. In our next unit, we're starting to diagnose patients at this point, and we're growing bacteria and trying to figure out which antibiotic. We test 3 different antibiotics to see what's best for our patient. Definitely building on group work here. They have to really kind of coach each other through what they're doing to be successful. And then at the end of our first unit, we have a whole clinic where students are actually diagnosing a patient. And so they're responsible as practitioners to write all the questions. And then we had staff members come in, and they were our patients. So it was great that it was interactive, and the students were taking responsibility for being that detective. And once in a while, we found out we probably should have asked them if they left the country or something important, in the process of trying to, diagnose. So it was great. From here, we jump into a huge project. This one I love. We get into that decision making and into that, whole depth of, trying things and creating things. They had to create a neuron model with 5 different mediums. And so the kids had so many different choices. We're in makerspace. They were constantly talking about the parts of a neuron. How do we connect the dendrites to, the cell body, or, what are we going to use for the axon? And they absolutely love it. And they continually refine their ideas. Their log wasn't about what they did. Their daily log was about the problems. What was the problem and what did you do? And then just to reinforce that, they took pictures of their own models and created GIFs or little mini videos to show the signal passing through. They're very proud of these. They really were. This lesson was part of the neuron lesson, and I bombed with this twice last year. The book gives us this empty body, and they tell you to, take these arrows and show which way our sensory neurons are going and our motor neurons. And they've got Lindsay, who sees a cardinal and is going to get her camera, and the kids that we had left to center totally all the time. So I thought, all right, I got to fix this year. And again, I just brought it to the kids. We were in makerspace already. We threw together their own monster, and they wrote the story. And so they did a beautiful job. They loved it. I touched the stove. It was hot. The sensory neurons went to my brain. My brain told me to move it. A few of our monsters spotted some famous people and had to break dance. So they got into it. It was fun. And then we actually, from neurons, we go into the brain, the sheep brain. Students look at the different parts of the sheep brain, and we label them and talk about what they do. And toward the end of this unit, we actually get a second sheep brain, and they diagnose a patient with a neurological disorder. So we go through that whole process of looking even at vital signs and symptoms, all the way to looking at CAT scans. And then finally, they cut into that part of the brain and look for a tumor. The kids are amazing. This is a place in the classroom, a lot of our things where they have to show empathy. We talk about everyone comes to school with a different experience, and many people come to school with someone in their family that's had a tumor or some type of brain injury or other things. So I am just blown away. They're very respectful. And then as we're doing that, we're diagramming human brains. We want to try and make that connection between the 3D sheep brain and the human brain. And they're a great pairing. The only difference is size and the brain stem, because the sheep, walks on all fours. So it's a great comparison for them. And this is our current unit that we're working on now. It's patient education. The book had us doing things like, okay, how would you help someone if they had a problem with their cerebellum? And kids don't relate to that. So it is our patient education project, but I brought in and gave them choices on topics that they like. They know that they've run into people that said, well, I've had ADHD or autism. They've never run into someone that says my occipital lobe is not working right. So that's what they relate to. And it's just so exciting. They are so into this and sharing and talking about it. They did the little poster with the QR code, and then that goes to an online website that they create. And it's just about patient education. It's just about giving somebody the start for if they have a diagnosis. How do we start to talk about this? My favorite is they have a whole page for what should teachers do to support these students, and what should peers and family do. So, and then that leads us into neurodiversity. So neurodiversity is based on the concept that neurological variances should be recognized and respected just like any other human variation. So our kids don't make fun of each other for what we look like, because we teach them that. And so this is just teaching them that we're not going to make fun of each other, and we need to understand that we think differently. A student in 7th grade could be taking high school math and acting like a 5th grader, because a lot of these are developmental disabilities, and that's just where their brain is. And we just have to understand more and be more accepting. And then kids are blown away when you start looking at some of the positive attributes, especially things like ADHD. So it was a great unit last year, so I'm excited to do it again this year. Last year, we did an entire school neurodiversity week, and it was very successful. The kids were into it. It was great. We had announcements every single day that, gave some good information and light on these different diagnoses. And then our final one is the outbreak. So we have this outbreak in Montgomery Hills. And this is kind of exciting for me because this is where the kids have worked so hard with problem solving that I literally can hand them a manila envelope with 40 sheets of paper and they're solving a problem. So they get a map and menus. They have 10 people that are sick. Only 7 of them are from the outbreak. So there's a couple people with sniffles in there, 20 epidemiology reports, and they get to choose from what point they want to start. And you can choose all kinds of different ways to do this. I mean, there's quite a few different ways. Sometimes they work at something for a day and they're like, okay, I think we're going to go over here and work at this, but they stick with it. And I just think it's awesome that they can do that level of problem solving. And these are just students, reading away and working at it. Then we actually test patient samples, and we identify that neurotoxin. And of course, we want to alert the public. So we look at what would the CDC need to tell the public, and we look at actual news releases. The kids get to use a green screen and a teleprompter, and we love it. And then these were a few words from some of our medical detectives. When asked what was different than expected, I guess I didn't expect to have so much fun in this class. I know that may sound mean, but when I think of medical stuff, I used to think of boring sick people, but now I think of how exciting it can be to actually diagnose a patient. I didn't expect to do so many hands-on labs, and I didn't think we were going to work on an actual sheep brain. And then what did you like learning about the most? Neurodiversity. I liked actually getting to learn what it is and how we're all different. It's fascinating, really. I liked learning about how to diagnose illnesses because it was fun to use the symptoms as clues. I liked learning about neurons because we get to use the makerspace and build our very own neuron models. I like this one. What did you learn about yourself? Because this is our important part. And so Soon said, I work way more efficient in groups. I had a lot of perseverance. I learned that teamwork really helps. I want to go to the Career Center. I like medical stuff more than I thought. I learned that I can do a lot of new stuff. I didn't think I would be wanting a medical job, but it actually looks really cool and I would love to have one. And then if we have time, I have a couple minutes where my kids they want their say. Thank you.
My name's Icy. What do you like about medical detectives? I like cutting open the sheep brains and seeing the tumors. Facts. What's your name?
My name's Isabel Morrison, and my favorite thing about medical detectives is that we get to work with other people.
What's your name? Sophia. What's your favorite thing about medical detectives? Probably when we did the neuron project. What's your name? Kate Jason. What's your favorite thing about medical detectives? I would have to say, with the new brochure project, I really like the creative design element in it.
Story made has a super long tongue, and he ended up biting it. That's why this teaching now is going up it. And when you bite your tongue or hit your mouth, you go to grab it. So that's why the motor neurons are on the arms to grab his tongue.
This is the nucleus. These are the dendrites. Rest of cell body. The myelin. And this is the axon. And then the synapse. And then this is our gift.
I like medical detectives because it's fun and you get to see the actual brain of the actual human brain, and you get to learn about the brain and the viruses.
Hi, I'm that, and what I liked about medical detectives is like the fun projects. One thing I really like about medical detectives is a neurological project. It was so fun as we got to go inside the brain and see all the different parts of the brain, and that's overall another reason why medical detectives is really fun and good.
The reason I like medical detectives is because it's a completely interactive class where you get to work with a team and do lots of fun activities that you wouldn't get to do in a regular class where you just sit down at your desk.
I like having hands-on, not working with technology a lot, and having to like mimic kind of what like surgeons would do on their brains. I almost passed out the best class ever because it's very hands-on. The reason why I like medical detectives is because you get to like choose what you do. You get to choose like what topic you're using, what materials you're doing, and I really like it because you get to work with partners and different people like every other week, and it's very fun. Hi, I'm Viola Luca, and this is about Miss Ferrugia's medical detectives class. Right now we are working with patient education, and we got to choose which topic we got to learn about. I really enjoyed this class and all that we were learning. I wasn't even interested in the medical field, and now that I've taken this class, I'm very much interested.
So you can see that all of this happens because of the work of an amazing teacher, of Nikki. So I don't know who's having more fun, Nikki or the kids. And I think regularly she comes down to me and giggles and says, "We're doing something really cool today. Come on down." So we want to invite all of you to always stop by and see, because Nikki's an inspiration in year 31 of her teaching. She is a trailblazer in this work and really putting portrait to practice. So thanks for letting us share tonight.
And Nikki really is an example of what we've talked about since the beginning of the year. We opened up the year telling the staff to show their passion, and that's exactly what Nikki does in her classroom every day. And I joked about the scrubs, because she really does wear scrubs in the classroom every day. But I mean, this is 21st century teaching and learning. You know, people sometimes ask, well, what is that? This is what that is. And these concepts that Nikki's teaching her students are really complicated concepts. I mean, I taught human anatomy and physiology to AP Bio juniors and seniors. So these are challenging concepts that these middle school students are grasping, and they're doing it in a way more interactive way than when I taught. So thank you for being a great teacher.
May I ask a question real quick? Okay. Is this just a semester course, or is it?
Yes, it's one semester.
And is it for 7th or 8th graders?
It's for 7th grade. The way both of our middle schools have it set up is students in 6th grade would take a PLTW computer type class. In 7th grade, they get biomedical science. And in 8th grade, they get engineering and robotics.
Oh, great.
So they kind of Project Lead the Way has from elementary through high school and AP classes, but it kind of gives them all three things in middle school, and it's a required class, so they take my class for half a year and health for half a year, so all kids get that opportunity.
Great, thank you. And thank you for incorporating the makerspace into your curriculum as well.
Oh, it's perfect. We love it.
That's great.
Yep,
Thank
and
you.
this programming is also all a result of our last strategic plan in implementing more career readiness in our curriculum across both of our middle schools as well as the high school.
And one last thing, also, thank you for incorporating our portrait of a bee into that as well. Thank you very much. That was great.
It blends well. It's good stuff. Yeah.
I got a question, or a question and just an observation. Did I see a flaming pool ball in one of your neurons?
Yes.
It had to be a young man doing that. That's something my son would do, but he's long gone. I thought I saw.
They love choice, you know. They do.
Well, then my observation is you see a lot of the kids liking to choose what they do, and then also doing it. rather than just sitting there and looking at. I heard the one young lady say, not just sitting and doing with technology, but
Right,
actual
yeah, they don't-
doing stuff. So, and at OSBA, I heard a lot about those two topics too, career readiness and choice.
Yep.
So that was very interesting.
Thank you. It's exciting. The kids do get to a really high level, but I love my job because last week I was just standing there for a second and someone skipped across the room and no one noticed. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love this moment. And they skipped back and I was like, okay. So we kind of have all worlds at middle school. That's why I love it. So.
Speaking of 21st century learning and teaching, I'd like to invite Christina Hammond up to talk about our ELA adoption at the high school. And I say that because Christina has been one of our lead teachers in our district in terms of our SOAR initiatives. And our ELA adoption is obviously extremely important. We all know the importance of reading and writing when it comes to all academics, and she continues to play a leadership role with this adoption as well. Despite her strong background in math, she's quite the ELA leader as well.
Thank you. I also have Kelly Kreiner, the Language Arts CDC, here with me, and Tiffany Nickel, one of the language arts teachers, here with me tonight. So, have them come up. So we just wanted to talk briefly about sort of our adoption journey, sort of our process. We've been at this for the last 18 months. We realized today it's been about 18 months. We started last fall, sort of doing the investigative process and formulating our vision and coming up with a good evaluation tool as we started to look at course materials. So here we are, and then we also realized today that we thought that was a lot of work. The hard work will actually begin next year as we start to implement. So, okay. Arrows in the center. There we go. All right. So just sort of a little historical journey here. Our last adoption was actually not even a materials adoption. It was more of just a curriculum update back in 2013-14. And that was actually our first run of technology purchases. So it's been quite a long time since we've adopted actual materials for high school language arts. Since then, we've gotten new standards back in 2017. So we had a lot of we had to come back together. We had to do a little bit of research on updates to best practices for teaching language arts. We also had our portrait of a bee that we wanted to make sure that we were incorporating into all of our work. And we needed to have a chance to be able to come together as a team. We have a very large language arts team to be able to have sort of like a common sort of place to start. So that's where the materials adoption will help us, because we'll have sort of a baseline to start with. And it was important to us that we were able to find something that would be very adaptable and flexible, so that we're able to implement the portrait of a bee and then along with our instructional vision. But also allowing teachers to have some flexibility, some choice, and so that everyone can kind of, design instruction around those items. So back in the fall, this is last fall, this is when we started sort of our literature review. We did a lot of professional reading. We discussed articles. We did a lot of article research on National Council of Teachers of English. Just kind of discussing, what were the updates and best practices, what was our vision for what we want our classrooms to look like, sound like, feel like. We also did a book study on 180, it was called 180 Days. It was on the workshop model for reading and writing instruction. So we had a long conversation about that. That was about a month long. We met after school to discuss the book. And then we met in June last year to sort of take all of that year's worth of research, and we compiled it together and formulated our vision. When we came back in August, we had sort of identified 3 choices that we wanted to look at. And so then in September, we invited vendors from each of those 3 choices to come in and do a presentation for us so that we could see what their materials were about and get a better idea of what we'd be getting if we wanted to purchase with them.
After that, we had samples from all the vendors. We had online access from all the vendors, and we sort of just kind of met weekly to kind of discuss, what did we like, what did we not like. We did compile, once we had our vision, we did put together a rubric to sort of evaluate on a more objective level. So we did do that. That was back in, I think it was October when we sat down and did that evaluation. So then we did come to our decision, and you guys have some books being passed around now. It's McGraw-Hill's Study Sync. Keep in mind that there is like a whole online platform that goes with the textbook. So the textbook will serve as more of a backup for our students in the classroom. We'll just have class sets of those in case we have technology issues or whatever. But primarily we do have an online platform, and that's where a lot of the, the differentiation, the choice, and choices for teachers will live. So now we are sort of in a McGraw-Hill has given us a free pilot license. So it's more of a beta test for us. All the teachers have kind of picked a unit or a piece of a unit that they'd like to try out with students here leading up to the end of the semester. And so far, it sounds like it's going pretty well. We've discovered it is, we were looking for something more rigorous. I think we've checked the box on the rigor. There's just a lot there for students to be able to choose from, for teachers to be able to choose from, and just the discussions that students will get to have really do speak to our portrait. So as you're kind of looking through materials, and I'll give you some examples here at the end too, where you can kind of see the portrait in action. I won't read through the whole vision that they came up with. It is a 2-page document. It's very comprehensive, but some of the highlights are that in addition to our portrait, we wanted to make sure that, again, we wanted a clear focus on our learning standards. We wanted to make sure that we were preparing all students for college or career, whatever comes next. We wanted to make sure that whatever instructional routines we put into place, we want those to be student-centered. We want students to have authentic reading and writing experiences. We would want students to have opportunities to be able to complete projects, and we wanted students to be able to have choice in what they were reading and writing about. And then, of course, we wanted to make sure we were doing all of this based on the research that we had done last year. So I do have linked in the slides. If you're interested, there is a link down there at the bottom for the full vision, so you can read through that if you'd like. Keep in mind, this is for 9th grade and 10th grade, so this will evolve as in the next couple of years as we meet with 11th grade and 12th grade teachers as they go through a similar process. Okay, so like I said, our recommendation is that we go with McGraw-Hill Study Sync, and just wanted to kind of talk about some of the key features of that program, and I have Kelly and Tiffany that are going to talk about that here with you.
Okay. All right, I have one of my speech students here, so I have to do a nice job with this. You can grade me tomorrow. I'll give you a little check sheet. So in our meetings with Christina, she told us to create a curriculum that we would want to teach and just to go, put everything down that we could possibly think of. And we really did create a unicorn of a curriculum. And through our discussions, we were able to refine what we wanted. And something that kept coming up over and over and over again was student choice. And I love hearing about it in the middle school and how that comes up to the high school as well. Students want to choose what they're doing, and this program really does do that. They have rich units that meet the proficiencies. They're actually set up with 6 units of study. The first 4 go over all the proficiencies. And within each unit of study, there are 4 separate pathways that teachers and students can choose from. So a teacher could choose to do something different every 4 years, or they could give that choice to the students in different sections so students can start making their own choices on novels and readings. And even within the pathways, there are ways that students can branch out and start picking and choosing what they'd like to study. So we found that absolutely incredible. Let's see. We also found the variety within each of the units amazing. There's poetry, there's informational text, short stories within every unit. So students get a variety of different types of readings.
clicker. So another thing we were really excited about as we're going through this process was how well aligned with Portrait of a Bee. Obviously, we've been working so much with that in the past year or so, especially. And the pathways allow for small group, whole group, and individual. It's very well aligned to us being able to adjust as needed. So if we have EL learners, if we have students that are struggling, and for students that need enrichment, we can actually put in their reading level, and the program will sync that up for us. So it helps us, hopefully, as we work through this. We're still learning it. So as we do that, we can put in their reading scores and their reading levels, and as students need either enrichment or support, scaffolding, it will give us opportunities to give those students those additional choices. And there's a lot, so we need to learn how to scale that back right now, which is a good problem to have. We have lots of choices. There's also that idea that, as Tiffany said and as Christina has said, the opportunity to have so much student choice. So we're really excited about this opportunity.
Okay, so as you're taking a look at the materials, these were just some examples. I think this was like in grade 10, unit 1, like the first chunk of that unit. I just went through and picked out some of the discussion prompts and some of the writing prompts, just so you could see just in that small selection how our portrait is being represented in just like their everyday conversations that they'd have through instruction. So, just make sure you take a look at that as you browse through. And as far as our next steps, so in the spring we have the hard work, as we said. We have to, we'll start the curriculum work and mapping out the units. As we do that, we'll identify the book club choices that students will have. So those will be the novels that will pair up with each of the units. We'll be doing sort of a soft rollout in the second semester. So once we've purchased, we'll kind of continue the pilot beta situation that we have going on now, but maybe in a little bit more detail. And then our hope is that in the fall, then we'll be implementing the full curriculum. And between now and then, we need to kind of as a team discuss, what does our vision, we have this 2-page document of a vision now, so what does this look like in practice, and what support will our teachers need so that we can make sure we provide all of that support, leading up to next year. And then just any other support that we'll need for teachers in terms of just using the platform, getting into all the online tools that come with, and anything else that would go along with that. And then also we want to make sure that we do create a plan for onboarding new teachers. So in future years when we do get new teachers, just making sure we have a clear plan from the beginning so we know exactly what we need to be able to share with our new teachers as we get them in the future. Okay, so are there any questions, feedback?
It looks really good. Thank you. I know you presented to the curriculum committee, I think a month or 2 months ago, maybe now. But I'm glad that you were able to come and present to the rest of the board. It's really exciting. It looks great. Wait, remind me what the timeline is for, will it come up for board adoption next month for a 30-day review? And then, is that?
Yeah, next
Okay, in December?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. And thank you for sharing your evening with us tonight. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great fun. Yeah, thank you.
And my last item this evening is business office updates. We have 3 business office updates, all of which are related to items on this evening's agenda. The first is in regards to the Recreation Center pool, which we have discussed with the board in the past. So Mr. Cole is going to provide an update with that. We also want to provide the board with information on the Recreation Center expansion, and I want to thank Jansen for joining us here from the city this evening. And you're going to hear this from me over and over again, and I know from the city as well, but that rec center expansion is at no cost to the district. That is actually a city initiative. much of which, is my understanding, is grant funded. We do own the rec center, so the city wants to work in collaboration with our Board of Education to move forward with that project. Therefore, our board needs to approve that project and aspects of that project as it goes through. And then the last item is pickleball courts, which is becoming an ever popular sport. I was actually out over visiting Root earlier this year when it was still warm out, and I saw some of our senior citizens out on our Root tennis courts playing pickleball, and I went over there to watch them and play with them a little bit, and came back to one of our COAT meetings and started having some conversation about what we can do, and learned about initiatives already going on in the city to provide more pickleball courts, and it's turned into a joint venture collaborative effort, which I'm hopeful the board will approve this evening. So, Mr. Cole?
All right, I'm going to skip around a little bit. I also promised Jansen we did not have to sing and dance tonight, so that's already been taken care of. The first thing we're going to talk about is the rec center expansion, and like Mr. Sable said, this is a 100% city-funded project. You do have a couple action items you have to take tonight, and one is to approve the preliminary drawings that were presented by Fanning and Howie, and then the second is to secure Fanning and Howie as our contractors or architects for this project. So I'll let Jansen, you want to speak any more about your grant and the expansion?
Yeah, so as Mr. Sable had mentioned, we did receive a grant, state capital bill grant through House Bill 687 in the amount of $350,000 for this project. It's actually a capital improvement award for community parks, rec, and conservation areas, and it's administered through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. Without that grant possibility and award, this project wouldn't be happening. We did discuss this all the way back in 2017. The scale and the size of it is much different now. We did look at those original plans. It was at that time over 4,800 square feet, and there were just a lot of concerns that Fanning and Howie had. So we engaged them to do a preliminary study, feasibility study, if you will, to see if we could do it within our budget from back in 2017, knowing that construction costs have risen. Our use of the rec center has also changed. Obviously with COVID, we've spaced out equipment, and this is to help address that for us by allowing us to relocate our free weight equipment down to the lower fitness area. So the project, once we found out the grant was awarded, we worked with your attorneys to develop the joint development and dedication agreement, which kind of outlines all the ins and outs of and responsibilities for how the city is going to enter into a contract with a vendor, and then in turn giving the project over to the school district, so it aligns with our joint operating agreement. So the city is going to, as Mr. Sable had mentioned, we're going to be paying 100% of these costs. $700,000 project with a $70,000 contingency. We in the joint development agreement it's specified that we will use the school's architect on record, Fanning and Howie, and we just received approval through our finance committee to enter into agreement for them for the design and construction documents. As Ryan had mentioned, we're seeking approval of the design, the concept that's there. It is outlined in our joint development agreement that we have to get your approval on that first before we can take the next steps to develop construction documents. Our grant does have a deadline. We have to be under contract before June of 2024. So what we're hoping to do is get the drawings done this winter with the anticipation of trying to break ground in spring of 2023.
And these are some of the drawings, the preliminary drawings that I've shared with you in the weekly updates, but this is looking out of the existing rec center into the new addition. And then this is the location that we're talking about from the front of the rec center. It'll be in that area that attaches to, adjacent to the pool. So,
If you could flip back one slide there. It's important to look at this. When the facility was built in 2002, there was actually an article written in Parks and Rec Business Magazine that it was designed to expand out that footprint in the front. So the gaps that you see are currently our exit and windows. So we're essentially just bumping the footprint out, which in turn will hopefully allow us to use the existing mechanical systems. They've yet to confirm that, but that's the intent, is to use the existing systems if they can do it at their highest capacity, so that we don't have to install any new. Yeah, so we have repurposed a lot of areas in the rec center. Recently, we converted our community room into a cycling studio to maximize the space, and it's used universally by people doing various stretches and body weight work. The area up top on the track, we have now opened that up. That used to be closed. So we've kind of changed how those areas are used to offer more opportunity, as well as allow us to space out our equipment. And our intent with this addition, it's going to be about 400 square feet larger than our existing free weight area, but there is a large ramp in our existing free weight area that's occupying a lot of valuable space. So by moving our free weight equipment down and out, it allows us to visualize how we're going to use the balcony, probably move some cardio equipment that doesn't require electricity up there, so that we can continue to space out equipment. If you've been there recently, we've invested a lot of money into new equipment that also was purchased mainly for space saving, so that we can space out and provide a better experience for everybody.
Since the footprint will be changing, do we need to amend our JOA?
No, Dave and I worked with our attorneys. So once the construction is complete, it'll roll right into our existing JOA. So that was part of the, Dave, what would you call that we drafted? Part of the resolution we're passing today.
And we might want to say that JOA is the joint operating agreement between the city and the school district.
Ryan, one more question.
Yep.
So we talked about putting a sign out front during construction. Can we still do that? That's
yes. Yeah, we would like to continually remind our community that this is a 100% Medina City project. So it will not be funded by the schools at all.
Okay.
So yeah, we would like to put some signage.
And in addition to that, a lot of these state grants that go through the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, that is a requirement of the grant that you have to put a sign up that usually says how it was funded.
Good to know.
We've done that on land and water conservation projects and a number of other ODNR projects in the city.
When you begin construction, how much of the rec center are you going to have to close down?
So with this particular project, the way it's designed with the windows, we haven't really gotten that far into it yet, but I would anticipate it being very low impact to the fitness room, because we're essentially just bumping out. When they get to the point where they have to remove the windows and connect the two together, there'll probably be a short delay, but we'll work with the architect to schedule that and communicate the same to the patrons.
Will there be a project manager from the city, or will that be you, Jansen, or will that be the?
So our engineering department will bid and award the project. We have a construction inspector on staff that oversees all of our city projects. And at the same time, we're also going to engage Fanning and Howie to help us with construction administration, which I think aligns with what we're trying to do here together.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, the second project that we're going to talk about is the root pickleball courts. And this would be a 50-50 split of funding for this project. You can see in the existing picture here, what we're talking about is the two bottom tennis courts, and we're going to be able to turn that into 6 pickleball courts. And with the help of the city, we can redo our tennis courts and also provide the Medina City with pickleball courts for their community use. So this is one of, I think, Jansen, you looked at a few other sites, and we've come to this joint project as a savings to both the city and the schools.
Yeah, we did discuss this at our public properties committee with the city. Mr. Shields is on that committee. And we looked at renovating an existing tennis court and in the neighborhood of $37,000 just to have 2 courts. And then our second location was Ray Mellert Park, where we were going to look at building 4 courts for about $163,000. And then this idea came up. The tennis courts there were lined by city staff about 2 years ago and cleaned up the best we could to have temporary courts till we found a more feasible plan. And once we decided to take this on, it just seems like a good fit for the community. It's also a good educational opportunity for the middle school. It's my understanding there's an interest there with some of the gym teachers. And pickleball is really a community sport. It is quickly growing, and the matches are very short in time, and there's a lot of people that play it. So I really think there's a benefit. There's a lot of youth who are getting involved with it. And I think it's just a good collaborative project where it can benefit both parties here. And there is a Medina Pickleball Association now that has about 100 members, I believe, and it's growing every day. So they're getting organized. They use the rec center almost every single day. They have 6 courts there. So I think it would be a very welcome addition.
I do appreciate the collaboration between the district and the city on this. I did want to just clarify, in the agenda it has the cost as $193,783,000. That is what would be split, 50-50 each. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions on pickleball?
Not really on pickleball, but it's the 2 courts closest to the road or the street. Correct. Any thoughts of doing anything with the other? This is just for the district, but any thoughts of doing anything with the other 2 courts? I mean, not necessarily tennis or anything like that, or.
Yeah, I mean, Steve and I have kicked around some ideas. It's not really a project we've discussed with the city at all, so it'd be a Medina City School project. And we've thought of possibly pulling the net post and making them like a multi-purpose surface that you could use for anything. You could also use temporary nets if you wanted to make them tennis courts or pickleball courts. We've talked about basketball courts on the ends, and even putting up, you could put soccer goals in there and play futsal. So it could be a multi-purpose surface.
Yeah, I think I asked you about that. You'd like to do tennis courts would be like, I don't know, $200,000 or some ungodly amount of money.
Yeah,
And
we
we just did a whole bunch of tennis courts, so.
did a whole bunch of tennis courts, yeah. A multi-purpose surface we kind of discussed would be more advantageous.
Ryan,
Yes.
was there any interest in, so when your back is facing the outdoor pool, there's those courts right across the street. Was there any interest in doing something with those?
Do you want to share, what's, Jim, the family that contributed to make those basketball courts? I'm not sure they want that covered.
Oh.
Sorry. Yeah, so the school resurfaced those as basketball courts a few years back.
Okay, and they just stay basketball. Okay, got you. Okay.
All right, the last project is the pool resurfacing, and this is the leisure pool that you're seeing here. This surface is 11 years old, which is approximate lifespan of this Diamond Bright product. The competition pool is not as bad as this pool, but it is original. So it's 20 years old is the life expectancy, or the life we've got out of the competition pool. They're both in dire need of repair at this point in time. Where there's a lot of foot traffic, that's the jet pond or the jet pool in the leisure pool. That Diamond Bright surface gets worn off. Ron had asked me a question at the last board meeting about the hot tub, and it is still the original surface, and it is in good condition at this time. So we don't plan to do anything with it currently.
From 20 years, still going.
And it just doesn't get quite the wear as the other pools get.
Yeah.
I have, is the guarantee still just for 1 year?
Yeah, the Diamond Bright has a 1-year guarantee, but yeah, you want to add on that?
I did look at that because I watched the meeting as well, and yeah, it's a 1 year, but you can purchase additional years, obviously, as you go. Can with a lot of things, but we've gotten 10 years out of the leisure pool, which I think is a pretty good amount. It's the average lifespan.
Well, but I think at the last meeting you said it was starting to chip at 2 years.
I wasn't here at the last meeting,
Okay.
but it did start to chip in areas, and we
Okay.
do have to make repairs on on an annual basis when we drain the pool. So
Okay.
that's kind of the purpose of shutdown. We drain the pools. We do a number of things, and we check for areas that have chipped off. It's like anything. It requires maintenance. But if we can get 10 years out of the surface, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
This particular project, I'm not sure if it was covered at the last meeting, also does involve changing out the drains and working on the lights as well, changing those over to LED so we don't have to continually replace them. The city of Strongsville is in the process of this right now, and it's our hope that if we can move forward with this, that we can schedule it around our shutdown. I'm not sure if that was talked about at the previous meeting, but
Yeah, we did discuss this
Okay.
as like an 8-week project.
I think you said over the summer.
Yeah, 'cause we'd like to-
Summer months, so the
Yeah.
the outdoor pools are open, yep.
Correct. Yeah, that is one of the luxuries that Medina does have, outdoor pools as well, so the community can take advantage of that. Any other questions? Well, thank you for coming tonight, Jansen. Appreciate it.
time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Thank you, and if there aren't any other questions for me from the board, I'll hand the baton over to Dave.
I want to apologize to Root. I was wearing my black shirt and black tie when I went skipping through there, so you didn't see it was me. The district bank balance decreased by $7.56 million in October. We're down to $68.089 million. This is $7.9 million below last year at this time. A portion of that is for error in posting. I believe it's roughly $2 million that's posted in error because we had a payroll that came right after actually closing, and it was posted to this month itself. So that'll be corrected with the November financials. Our 5-year forecasted revenues were below last year by $1.705 million. A large portion of this is your property tax allocation fund, which is your homestead rollback. We still have yet to receive that. Usually we receive it in late September, early October. 5-year forecasted expenditures were above last October by $3 million. Capital outlay was the only fund not accounting for this increase. The sales tax fund balance increased by $3.5 million. Again, I keep saying by, it's two. Increased to $3.5 million. The district spent approximately $131,000 in October, with the majority of expenditures on furniture and boilers. We had a boiler, I believe it was at Root. The boiler was at the high school that we had to replace. Let's see, the district received a distribution from the county. This was the first distribution for the new fiscal year. It was $1.116 million, and a reimbursement from Fen PTO of $8,600. The Rec Center Capital Fund balance increased to $158,000. The district received $42,000 from the city as reimbursement, and we transferred $10,000 per our agreement with the city to move that up to $150,000 in the next 5 years. The district has received $78,000 in investment income for October. The total collected for the current fiscal year is approximately $193,000 above last year at this time. The district has forecasted funds true days cash estimated to be 182 days. This is down from September by 28 days and below last year by 37 days. Any questions on the forecast or on the financials, please? Okay, I've spoken about a 5-year forecast since I've been here. I got here in April, and in May of 2014 was my first 5-year forecast with Medina City Schools. I mentioned how school districts are the only government entity that has to do a 5-year forecast, but in some cases we use it as a tool, and that's what this case is going to be. The 5-year forecast for Medina City Schools consists of 2 funds, the general fund and the substitute levy fund. Within these 2 funds are 2 main sources of revenue. You have the real property taxes and the unrestricted grants and aid, which is our school foundation funding. The real property tax revenue provides a stable source of income as a result of the passage of the substitute levy in May of 2018, with collections that began in 2019. This levy has allowed for continuing funding of the $6.6 million to the district without increasing taxes to our community. The forecast also contains an estimated increase in valuation for the upcoming county triennial update. I know you all received your invitation from the county to look at what he believes your house is valued at. Some of you may go ahead and complain about that to the county auditor, and I'm sure he's heard these complaints. However, this valuation increase only allows a small increase to our school district property tax revenue, as House Bill 920, which was passed in 1976, reduces the effective rates to the collection at the time the levy is approved by the voters in the community. The school district foundation funding has had numerous legislative plans over the past 12 years. Funding for public school districts has been limited at best, with only a 4.7 increase between 2014 and 2019. With a state budget, state legislators have increased payments to non-public community schools and voucher programs above what they pay public school districts on a per pupil basis. In January of this year, the state began the implementation of the Fair School Funding Plan for public school districts. The implementation of the full plan was to take 6 years. Legislators reduced this implementation to 4 years, then decided this new school funding plan was not for them to hold future legislators to, and decided to only fund it for the first 2 years. Immediately after this passage of the 2-year plan, legislators were quoted as saying they will replace this new plan. At a conference this past week, the OSBA conference, Board President Parkhurst and myself sat through the Senate Majority Leader Andy Brenner stating that legislators will probably not fully fund the plan. But at the same time, he was talking about increasing payments to voucher and community schools. The current forecast shows the implementation of the current biennium and basically holds funding stagnant through the remaining years. The district assumes an increases as the forecasts move forward on the expenses. We assume personnel will remain within the district as the retirement system has increased the years required for retirement. Purchase services are assumed to increase at cost for tuition, and utilities are anticipated to increase, as well as supplies and material costs with the return of inflation in the economy. Now, I don't know about you, but I was in schools when interest rates were at 12.75%. As a matter of fact, that was what my first home was. The mortgage itself was 12.75. So I know what that was like, and I know some of you don't, but it has occurred. The interest rates will go down, just like they always do. Line 7.020 shows the combined cash balance for the general fund and the substitute levy. We can see that the forecast shows the yearly reduction in the ending balances as programs and services continue to be offered, and this was stated in our strategic plan that we will not ask for a new levy until it is needed. With the passage of the substitute levy in May of 2018 at no additional cost, the district stated that, again, no new funding would be requested. As with our May forecast, this current forecast shows the district estimates that it will not need funding through an operational levy until the 24-25 fiscal year. The district is continuously reviewing cost-saving measures in an effort to keep the request for additional funds to this 24-25 year. It is important to note that if changes occur, such as changes to the Fair School Funding Plan or a replacement plan, the 5-year forecast and any additional cost-saving measures will need to be reviewed. This forecast is made based upon current information and a number of assumptions, and is only good the day it is created. Last November, I compared the 5-year forecast to a game of cornhole. You all remember that. I talked about moving the boards out and how difficult it is as you move the boards farther and farther out to get a cornhole. With state legislators putting more taxpayer money per student into non-public, for-profit community schools and voucher programs, public school districts throughout Ohio will have to look to their taxpayers for support. As inflation continues, more money will be needed to obtain the same services, supplies, and materials. History of revenues and expenditures can provide a guide, but there are plenty of outside factors that will play into the best of the forecasts. Okay, there's my summary of what you're seeing behind me. So, any questions?
Dave, so next year you think our foundation money is going to be cut back by a lot?
I didn't say cut back. I don't think Senator Brenner said cut back. The foundation consists of valuation and number of students. With our valuation increasing, I believe the auditor was giving a 20% increase in valuation for residential property. Luckily, our valuation is sort of a 60-40 split between residential and commercial property. I do see that the amount of money is coming from the state possibly being reduced because we'll have more, how would you call it, more opportunity to receive more money from local taxpayers than we did the current year.
Okay.
But we know that the corporate world will spend a lot of time fighting some of their increases, and currently we don't have a way to combat that. I mean, they've kind of tied our hands unless we want to jump through a lot of hoops.
There is legislation to that effect,
Yeah.
yes. So.
So, Mr. Chambers, it does appear you did add, if I look at the very last page, a new levy then in fiscal year 2025.
Well, I don't know if we could talk about that until you approve the 5-year forecast. But yes, there is a line item on this forecast that calls for a possible levy in 24-25.
Thank you. And to clarify, that is related to discussion on House Bill 140, which limits what we can say or cannot say regarding levies. But
correct.
factually speaking, there are numbers in here for a new levy if the board.
There
will
are
approve
numbers
it.
in there for a levy, yes.
Thank you. Factually speaking, if we were not to have this levy money added in here at the bottom of line 22, it does appear that our cash balance would go into the negative in fiscal year 2026.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Just a question, it's not related to your report, but we are part of that, the group that's fighting that vouchers. Is there any update on that, or nothing?
We are a part of that coalition, and I do not have an update on that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chambers. Next up is board communication. If we can go around the horn if board members would like to share their experience at OSBA, committee updates, other items of interest.
I'll go. Since I've been mocked for saying too much, I'm going to let them talk about OSBA. But a couple weeks ago, I went to the high school. Cafeteria manager Liz Kiosis invited me to come and watch the lunch proceedings. I have to tell you, it's like going to a food court. The kids come in, they can just go around, pick what they want, walk out. I mean, obviously, they're typing in their number. They know, like if a parent calls in and says, my kid's buying his money, he's spending a lot of money at lunch, she can go in and see that he came in or she came in and bought 5 candy bars at a certain time, and then the parents can take care of all that. There is no way that anyone could find nothing to eat in this cafeteria. They have anybody with allergies. I mean, I was just really impressed. It's not like the old days where you stood in line, got yelled at if you came out. You had to be the line, make sure the line was good. And the kids, all the food is hot, and they just seem to have a great time in the cafeteria. So I just think it's amazing. And I think the amazing part of all of this was how helpful and cheerful all the cafeteria workers were. I mean, I did not see one sour face there. The kids could ask them a million questions, and they just, seemed to really enjoy that part. I want to congratulate the girls soccer team for making it to regionals, boys soccer for the state semis. Both cross-country teams made it to state and placed, and they also went to the Nike event, and many of the runners had their personal bests. Winter sports started Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, the girls basketball team, and Sunday was bowling, county bowling. Please come and support all the levels. It's just not varsity. There's freshman, JV, 7th and 8th grade. And to go down and watch a middle school game, the kids are a lot of fun. And they have a great time playing. The foundation is selling raffle tickets for $50. There are $53,000 worth of prizes, including a new car. And all the money raised goes back to support students. You can just go onto their website and scan or click in, and eventually you'll be able to put in your $50 and get your ticket. And I want to wish everybody a great Thanksgiving.
Well, the first thing that I want to say is actually a callback to previous in our meeting when we had the encore show choir here. I don't know how well it came up on the video, but so these kids are used to performing with about, what, let's say a foot, 2 feet in between each other. They had about 6 inches and they still managed to pull it off. If that's not adaptability, I don't know what is. That was just, that's what blew my mind. I mean, it was a great performance also, but yeah. Then I also wanted to kind of mention what board member Pritchard here said about the fall sports. We had some teams that had absolutely stellar seasons, made it far in the state tournaments. Fall sports, you're next up. We'll be looking to you guys to kind of carry on that success, and I know that you guys can definitely do that. I had a curriculum meeting where we had talked about the elementary school ELA programs. I think for everybody that was in the curriculum meeting, I had a clear favorite, but I'm not necessarily 100% the opinion that matters. I'm not the all-ruling opinion, so I know that there was a meeting to discuss the 2 options directly after our curriculum meeting, and they may or may not have decided on something, but either way, they're both great programs. So either one that comes, I'll be interested to see what the administration and the staff picks on that one. And then at the OSBA conference, it's an awesome experience as a board member for sure, and I'm sure as administration too. There's a lot of different classes that I was able to sit in to get different ideas and just completely new projects and ways of thinking to try and bring back and communicate and try and distribute within the school district, which is awesome. And another thing is, as normal, we are super lucky as a school district because there were not a lot, but there were some programs there that schools are like, hey, we just tried this in 2020 or 2021, and there some programs that we have been doing at Medina for years now, and I mean that's just a testament to us just being very forward-thinking and trying to be ahead of the curve and make sure that our students have the best opportunities and our staff have the best opportunities at this district. And yeah, I want to thank the staff and everybody else also, and happy Thanksgiving.
Couple things in no particular order of importance, but it was good to go to OSBA again this year. Last year, right after, not more than 3 days after the election, I was going, but it was good to go back this year and sit in on various seminars and whatnot. Some of the ones that stuck out with me were I sat in on a STEM resources one, and it was actually put on by Train Heating and Cooling, who've been partnering with various schools across the country, and they had all kinds of programs and things. The example they gave was a school in Oklahoma where they've integrated the heating and cooling system into their curriculum, and the kids monitor the energy usage, and they use that in their science classrooms. I thought it was just kind of an interesting concept, and sat in on some other ones on current case law concerning schools, essential policies, and then the other one that really stuck out was, and I know this board has in the past had student reps, but there was 3 or 4 districts from near Cincinnati that have partnered together, and those kids that they had on their Board of Education reps, students. We're doing really cool things. So it kind of goes to where you give the kids a problem and turn them loose, and they come up with all kinds of good solutions, doing. But it was an interesting seminar. So also I went and rode the school bus for the candlelight walk on Saturday night, and I must say his last name slips my mind. Rob, he's in charge of transport. Rob Travis. Yeah, well, thanks to him, and especially Donnie Loeb and Mary and Chris Hawk, bus drivers, and they were like all over decorating that bus. They had power system in there, and they had lights, and they were going just bananas for it, and especially Mary and Chris were all dressed up. And yes, we did have Santa bus surfing on the top. He was surfing on the top. And Frosty had his head stuck out the window, but it was a whole lot of fun, and hopefully we can keep that going, maybe have a few more people next year, because it was just a lot of fun. In fact, Mary walked the whole parade route passing candy out, because we couldn't throw it from the bus because the city would yell at us. So, but it was a lot of fun, and I think special thanks to Donnie Loeb, because he drove the bus, and it's pretty tight on that course with all the kids. So that was a whole lot of fun, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. Had a Access TV meeting, and Amy Busby was there right after OSBA. Got home about 30 minutes and then took off to that. There was starting some rewrites of the operational agreement, or whatever that document's called, and some other things in that. And I believe Amy was going to talk at your coat team meeting about some of that, so she probably brought a little bit more to that. Jeannie brought this up and asked me if I was going to talk about Eagle Scouts, because we just had one of the high school seniors get his Eagle Scout. So I said I would. His name is Brandon Forrester. He just got his Eagle Scout about a month or two ago. He just had his board review, but I think in the future I'll try to get with the local Boy Scouting units and try to find out who's had Eagle Scouts from the Medina school system, and maybe bring that. And on the Girl Scout end, if there's somebody out there that can get in touch with me, that the Girl Scouts with their silver award, I'd be happy to bring that up too. Those are big deals, those awards. And then finally, just a special shout out to Mr. Smith and Mr. Razzo. Sunday evening, I took my son and his 3 roommates out, was asking them how things were going, did they feel prepared for being down at OSU, and they're like, yeah, we don't really understand all these assignments and stuff, but Mr. Razzo and Mr. Smith really prepared us well for the class and stuff. So I sent them an email thanking them. The boys were really, that was a big deal that they said that. I didn't prod them, they just said it. They were like, yeah, we're really glad we had them at Medina. So thanks to Mr. Smith and Mr. Razzo. So that's it.
I would like to also echo what Jean, Joe, and Andrew said about this fall sports. Hugely successful seasons for all the teams, and there were several postseason accolades from both the student athletes, and the coaches. I don't want to mention names, because if I mention a name, I'm going to forget someone, and I hate to backtrack. So just congratulations to our coaches and our student athletes for just a great season. Good to be a sports fan in Medina. We also had a great opportunity, and we're still doing it now, but the staff is receiving accolades. We get to go to those. Innovation Award and the Going the Extra Mile Award and the Distinguished Service Award. So appreciate our staff for stepping up and continuing to excel, not only in the classroom, but our support staff as well. We're extremely proud of every one of our staff members. And that includes, I want to thank Amy Busby. I think Colonel Taylor mentioned you, but Amy was a big part of that Veterans Day contest since she's been there from the beginning, and so appreciate all your help with that, being the rock, I guess, like Dave said. Hopefully we can continue that, so thank you, Amy. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the City of Medina, Mayor Hanwell, and all the council members, including our very own Mr. Shields. And Jansen was here. He's part of that, and putting on a wonderful candlelight walk, opening up the holiday season. It was a lot of fun. You guys did a lot, and you included the schools. As Andrew said, he was frolicking on that bus.
I was frolicking.
So, yeah.
A lot of fun. I'll do it again.
Yep. So, appreciate that, and I think that parade gets better every year, with the way that the lights on those vehicles. So anyway, that was a great time. So thank you, City, Medina, and Medina Schools. And lastly, it's a short week. I know everybody's excited to go into Thanksgiving. Enjoy your holiday. It's well-deserved. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, I have a few things. I also want to mention the band. I believe it was their 20th year of going to states and doing very well. So congratulations to them and all of the members. Superior rating, thank you. So that's very, very fantastic. I attended the curriculum committee with Joe a week or two ago now. Time flies. I think it was 2 weeks. Policy committee with Ms. Pritchard, which will be meeting again here in December. And then we'll be presenting those to the board. Last week was OSBA, and as Mr. Chambers mentioned, we did get, the great thing about the conference is you do get exposure to some of our state senators and state reps. They give us some of the updates. Personally, the discouraging part is hearing things about like the school funding that what they're not going to do. They tell us a lot of what they're not going to do versus what they are going to do. So that's a little discouraging and frustrating to me. However, there were some bright points. One of the sessions that I attended talked about a board self-evaluation, which is something that we put into our board handbook a couple of years ago. We haven't really done anything with that self-evaluation, so it gave some tools and tips of what that could look like. So my thoughts are maybe we talk about that during policy and then can share that with the board and get feedback on what we think we want to do with it. But I think it's good just to assess ourselves and what our own goals are, and as individuals on the board as well as the full board. So more to come on that. The Career Center, I serve on the Career Center board. That meeting is tomorrow evening for November, and then there will also be a holiday dinner for their December meeting where the Career Center students will serve dinner, so I'm looking forward to that. I believe Cheyenne, who I think is one of our former students, she's currently on Hell's Kitchen, and she's going to be there, so that's pretty exciting as well. The Career Center also presented at OSBA on some unique programs that they do. One is a CARES Closet, which is similar to what actually our high school has with our Feed the Bees pantry, and then their partnership with Twisted to help with their students that work in Twisted. So that was a pretty neat opportunity for them to get the chance to present there as well. Oh, the legislative update at OSBA was also very helpful because one of the bills we talked about briefly earlier was House Bill 140, so it was good to get educated on that as well. So I wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. It was great to have such a crowd here tonight. There's a lot of exciting things going on in the district, so it's really exciting to be heading off into the holidays with all of this excitement and seeing our portrait of a bee being implemented and our students and teachers empowered to do great things. So thank you, everyone, for all of their hard work. Okay, this time in the agenda for public participation. It looks like we do have someone who signed in to speak, so I will review the rules. Community members wishing to address the board are asked to abide by the following guidelines. Attendees shall register their intention to participate in the public portion of the meeting upon arrival. After those that have registered have spoken, if time allows, the board president will ask for public participation from all other attendees. When you come up to the microphone, please state your name, address, and affiliation. Please keep comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic unless all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No person may address or question board members individually. Mr. Aiden Haggard.
My name is Aiden Haggard. I reside at the 5000 block of Coverdale Way. This is Anga Chabra. He will not be speaking, but is our vice president of the Medina County Conservative Youth Union. I am the president thereof. I stand before the board today seeking you to make right an injustice and an extreme miscarriage of justice. On October 25th, Superintendent Sable, Assistant Superintendent Qualick, and Principal Tadona ceased the operations of my organizations. Operations which are legally protected by Title 20 of the United States Code, Section 4071, and School Board Policy 5730. My organization is the Medina County Conservative Youth Union, which hopes to strengthen students' beliefs in political activities and inform them of the conservative movement. We believe it's important for students to have the ability to discuss politics in an open and free manner without the fear of teachers going against them for what they say. It's no secret that most of the employees and most of the school teachers are more likely to be Democratic than Republican. I believe, according to most of the teachers, about a 60% straw poll, about 70% of them who are registered as a political party are Democratic, juxtaposed to Republican, which makes it very difficult for us conservatives to actually speak our opinions in class without fear of talkback from the teachers. The halting of our organization and the operations thereof are in clear violation of the law, and it cannot be allowed. But with what reason did the school deny us? This was photo taken on September 9th, 2022. We placed 2,977 American flags donated by the American Legion in remembrance of those men and women who died on September 11th, 2001. But September 11th, 2001 is a day extremely close to me. It was the day my father Jeffrey, was reactivated in the U.S. Army. He saw the terrible attacks on our Capitol building, on our Capitol buildings, and on our World Trade Centers. He went against my grandmother's wishes and was reactivated in the Army. He fought for those flags that we put out on that day. He fought for the me and the USA. He fought for the freedoms and liberties. But this school clearly has no interest in actually pursuing freedoms and liberties of their students. The school claims that we have deceived them. I want to name every single person in this photo. It's myself, I believe a member of the employee of the school board, I do not know his name, Dr. Tadona, Terry Grice for sheriff, board member West, Judge Donakar, the 9th District Court of Appeals, Superintendent Aaron Sable, my chief of staff, Buster Lapps. We have our 2 members from North Royalton, Turning Point USA, Angad Chabra, our vice president of operations, and Jake Poling, a regional field rep of Turning Point USA. Dr. Tadona, Mr. Aaron Sable, and Dr. Christine Qualick claim that we deceived them, saying that we did not inform them that they were going to be at this meeting. But, in transparency, we did not inform them ahead of time, but what did happen is we informed them at the day of the event what their names were and who they affiliated with. At that which point, we had a discussion discussing what we would discuss on 9/11, what happened on our day, what happened to us. They knew who they were. They knew who they were affiliated to, which means one of two things. They either didn't care or they didn't do any due diligence when Jake Poling and my colleagues from the North Royalton Turning Point USA introduced themselves. But I can assure with great 100% accuracy that they did introduce themselves and who they were representing. This means that the superintendent didn't clearly care about what this means. Shortly thereafter, a clerical error on our end sent Turning Point materials to the school addressed to myself, which was meant to be sent to our P.O. box in Chippewa. It was under these 2 incidents, a photo with no due diligence on behalf of the school employees, the Superintendent Sable, and Associate Superintendent Qualick, and Principal Tadona, and a clerical error, that the school decided to take away our rights and our liberties. Following this, they also prohibited to meet under certain circumstances. They would allow us, but certain circumstances that would be very hard for us to follow through. They also stopped our ability to put morning announcements out, as well as put posters up, which are clearly protected to us. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I've read a couple textbooks of law. As a matter of fact, it was that very superintendent of the board who said you probably should stop looking into law unless you find it interesting, because it won't do you much help. Not verbatim, but it's very rough words, very close to what he would have said. Now, I soon want to be a lawyer, but that is pretty close to what he said. But I continue to look into this. But I wouldn't be remiss if I wouldn't say thank you to the school board. You guys have been challenging me for the last 3 years, and certain members of the school, you guys have been challenging me for the last 3 years through trying to get our organization started up, and I think it definitely defined me who I am. But I think it's important to notice that this school board and the employees of it are harnessing our rights and our abilities to communicate. Now students don't have a safe space to discuss their political activities inside of school without fear of actually having someone retaliate. And I want to bring up, it was mentioned today at the school board meeting, the portrait of a bee. And one of them in there is interactions with others. And under collaborator, it says, quote, cooperates on teams, is a reflective listener, understands and respects diverse perspectives. But it doesn't seem to me like the school is truly respecting diverse perspectives. I mean, it's no secret that most of you guys don't agree with me politically. You know, most of you guys are good people, you know? But you guys disagree with me politically, which is okay. You know, that's what's important about America. But, you know, it's sad that we are not able to meet anymore. You know, our students no longer have a place to discuss political topics. We also weren't allowed to put out flags on Veterans Day. These flags were donated to us by the American Legion, 2,977, and a few extra just in case any broke, for the purpose of 9/11. But we also planned to put them out. We did them in Memorial Day, and we planned other times also. We couldn't put those out. They were donated to us by the American Legion. Cost them a good amount of money, too. And it goes to say, without question, what is the true intent of why you would silence us? I mean, there might have been a clear glare, and there might have been a little bit of misunderstanding, but we did our best to rectify. I explained everything to those people who were questioning us. They said, we're going to put you under investigation, you know? And, you know, they're not the FBI, obviously, but I haven't heard anything back recently.
Mr. Haggard, you have exceeded your 3 minutes.
Thank you. I appreciate the board
Thank you.
listening to me.
Hang on a minute.
Certainly.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
If it's okay with the board, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess. Okay. Okay, we'll be back. Thank you. And we're back. Thank you. Mr. Chambers, I believe your action items are up.
Yes, if it please the board, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the October 22 Treasurer's Financial Report. Item 2, supplemental to permanent appropriations. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the following supplemental to the 22-23 permanent appropriations. The number of items here for the athletic fund. Last month I was in haste and transferred, but I don't have any money or any budget to transfer from, so these are authorizing the budgets for those transfers. Item 3, it is recommended the Board of Education approve the November 22 5-year forecast and notes to comply with State of Ohio Department of Education requirement. And number 4, a letter of arrangement. It is recommended the Board of Education approve the letter of arrangement between the Auditor of State and the Medina City School District to ensure services satisfy the district's audit requirements for the year ended June 30th, 2022.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's action items.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Are there any questions or comments from the board regarding these action items? Hearing none. Mr. Chambers.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this evening, my recommendations are broken up into 3 sections because of the facilities items and the cooperative items with the City of Medina. The first item, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the Medina City Schools membership in the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance at no cost to the district. This membership will allow the district to utilize procurement resources and solutions that result in cooperative purchasing contracts to ensure we are receiving products and services of the highest quality at the lowest prices, and this directly relates to the work on the pool.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Any questions or comments from the board? I believe Mr. O'Call worked on this, and I appreciate you researching this to try to get the best bang for our buck for the
Thank you.
district. So
Yes.
thank you very much. Mr. Chambers?
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next set of items, resolution for the Recreation Center addition. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the resolution for the joint development and dedication agreement with the City of Medina for construction of a Recreation Center addition. Number 2 is a resolution for preliminary drawings and construction administrative services for Recreation Center expansion. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the attached preliminary drawings and the Fanning Howie proposal for professional services for construction administrative services for the expansion of the existing Medina Community Recreation Center in the amount of $17,000. Number 3 is a resolution for architectural engineering services for Recreation Center pool. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the proposal with Brand Setter Carroll, Inc. for professional services for engineering and construction documents relating to the repairs to the Medina Recreation Center natatorium in the amount of $12,000. And number 4 is service agreement for the pickleball court construction. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the proposal from Vasco Sports Contractors for pickleball court construction at AI Root Middle School in the amount of $193,783. This project is a 50-50 shared cost with the City of Medina, and it's contract number 8-07, Region 14 ESC. I do want to point out again that the total cost is the $193 that will be split between the city and the district.
I'll make a motion for action items I-1 through I-4.
I'll second action item, superintendent action items I-1 through I-4.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Thank you, Mr. West. Any questions or comments from the board regarding these action items?
I think I only have one question. Is that somewhere along the line, Claggett would get some opportunity to learn pickleball at some point?
That's actually a really good question, and I think we can make that opportunity available. I actually noticed walking over here today that we had pickleball nets set up on the balconies over in the gym for the high school.
Okay.
So that may even already be happening.
Okay.
Thank you, and I do once again just want to acknowledge and appreciate the collaboration between the district and the city for these projects. Mr. Chambers.
Yes, Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. West? Yes. Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the consent agenda items, regular business. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following donations to Medina City Schools. I do want to point out that there's several donations on here from our own employees, especially to our maker spaces, which we always appreciate. Number 2, service agreement, Branching Minds. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the service agreement with Branching Minds for all platforms, licenses, and technology to support district staff and students with program implementation. This is a 10-year contract in the amount of $298,000 and will be paid for through federal funding using American Rescue Plan, ARP, and Redirect 516 funds. Number 3 is field trips. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following overnight field trips in compliance with Policy 2340. We do have a couple field trips that were superintendent approved for state competitions. In addition to that, we have our Encore group, which just performed this evening to do their annual trip to Franklin, Indiana, as long as there's not snowed out this year. And then our Claggett 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. this spring. Root took their D.C. trip already this past fall. And then we have several personnel items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve a food service special event catering rate of $28 per hour for a catering server cook and $38 per hour for a catering manager. Another point of pride in our district is our food services. I can promise you that not every school district can say that, but the level of food services, and Ms. Pritchard had mentioned it earlier in the meeting here in our district, is just outstanding. It's to the level that they actually provide catering here at the high school to outside services and events when they rent our facilities. So in an effort to ensure that they have proper staffing and that our employees that are working those outside events are appropriately reimbursed, this recommendation is being made. Also, in order to ensure compliance with an upcoming increase in the Ohio minimum wage, it is recommended the Board of Education, effective January 1st, 23, approve changes to the positions in bold type on the attached support staff substitute rate sheet, as well as the athletic and PAC worker rate sheet. And again, that's because of an increase in rates. And it is recommended to the Board of Education to approve all following personnel recommendations pending completion of all required paperwork to our Director of Human Resources, Jim Shields.
I'll make a motion to approve superintendent action items J 1 through 4.
Thank you, Mr. Ross.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Any questions or comments from the board regarding action items J1 through 4? Ms. Pacifica, I know you worked on the Branching Minds, and I want to thank you for getting that. I know it looks like a big contract, but it is over 10 years, and I think that'll be very helpful to our students and our teachers. So thank you very much for researching that and bringing that to the board. All right, if there's no questions or comments, Mr. Chambers, when you're ready to call roll, please.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then I would like to entertain a motion. I believe we need to add an action item for the high school ELA curriculum for a first reading, so it can be added to the board for 30-day public review, if someone would like to make a motion to add.
I'll make a motion to add a public review for the ELA adoption for grades 9 and 10.
Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Are there any questions or comments, or Mr. Sable, would you like to speak about that?
No, it's recommended to the Board of Education to approve for a 30-day public reading period the 9th and 10th grade ELA adoption materials. So the goal would be to formally recommend those for adoption, as mentioned this evening, at the next board meeting.
Thank you. And I believe these books will be available at the board office if anyone would like to take a look at them. And maybe someone can help Tina carry them back. Tonight they seem pretty heavy.
No kidding.
If there's no other questions or comments, Ms. Thank you, Mr. Chambers, when you're ready.
Yes, Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Mr. West?
Yes.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, I'd entertain a motion to move to executive session to consider the employment, discipline, and I'm going to add actually appointment also, of a public employee or official, as well as discussion with the board's legal counsel of disputes involving the board that are the subject of pending or imminent court action.
I'll make a motion to move to executive session. Second.
Thank you, Mr. West. Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Yes, Mr. West?
Yes.
Mr. Nichols?
Aye.
Hold on. Ms. Pritchard?
Aye.
Mr. Ross?
Aye.
Ms. Parkhurst?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Pritchard. No, we do not anticipate taking any action when we return from executive session. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending this evening.